you then Dr. Stan Renz. He is the new superintendent of the Payson Unified School District. Yay! Okay, and we have, well, you'll get your turn.
Okay.
You guys decide who you wanted to go first or anything?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Rory's going first?
Yeah, first.
Okay. This is Kathy Manning. She is the financial
Director of Business Service.
Director of Business Service. She's the money lady, okay? And we have Rory Huff. Rory was a board member when I first came on the Payson Unified School District Board, and I got to be like 4 years with him, and so got to know him. So he is a past board member now, but he is going to be speaking about the override in positive terms. The Dr. Renz and Mrs. Manning cannot promote the override one way or the other because of state law. So he's going to be our person. Okay, so Rory, you're up first?
Yeah.
Okay, Rory's also a real estate agent in town, so
Don't hold that against me.
Don't hold it against you.
We're here tonight basically to ask for your support for this override. We're here to answer any questions, so we hopefully can prove to you why we need it and what we do with the money. We've always had good support from the Tea Party when it came to school projects. I've been here 2 or 3 times in the past. One was the bond, another one was a previous override. And first, before we get started though, I'd like to have Dr. Renz introduce himself, and so you know what his background and his history is, and then we'll open it up, I guess, for question and answers. And if you have any questions, where the money's going, what we do with, what they do with it, I'm not involved anymore. That's what we're here for. So anyway, Dr. Renz.
Thank you, Roy. I appreciate that, and appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to introduce myself to you tonight. Just want to tell you that this is about 9 weeks in. I started July 1st. I'm a lifelong Georgia resident. My kids got in college, and it was time for me to really be in a part of the country that I wanted to be in. So for years, I spent a lot of time out in this part of the country, in the Southwest, and so I had the opportunity to come out here. I was looking for, I can tell you, I was looking for a small town, first of all, and I was looking for a town with great conservative values, and I was looking for a town that I could call home. So, and I can tell you, this feels like home to me already. So, you know, my background a little bit, I was a middle school teacher, started that way and spent about 10 years in the classroom, and then realized it was time to do something different. I went on to an elementary school where I was the principal for about 10 years, and I went to a high school, and then I figured it was time to try to move into the big chair, and so I was a superintendent down in South Georgia, and then when Dr. Wyman made the decision to leave, this opportunity came open, and I was fortunate enough to be offered, and it was an easy decision for me. So just want to thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you, and also tell you a little bit about, you know, my vision for our school system here. I think we're doing a lot of great things. We've got a lot of great people, great kids, such a welcoming community, and I believe that education has changed so much. And you know, the things that most of us in this room we learned at home from our parents. The way we do things, the way we take care of people, the way we do simple things such as changing a tire, cleaning a room, personal finance. But unfortunately, we're in a situation now, I believe, in our country where those kind of things are no longer being taught at home. There are in some cases, but in so many cases, we have kids that come to us that have no idea how to do the basic skills in life. And I believe that we have an opportunity, not only an opportunity, but an obligation to not only teach reading, writing, and arithmetic, but also life skills. And so that's something I take very seriously. The board and I this week started looking at facilities. We've got a lot of challenges here, but we've also got a lot of great things going on in our school system. And so, again, my office is open to you at any time. If you want to come by and talk about anything, love to get to know, you know, you on a more personal basis. I appreciate what you all are doing in our community. I had a chance to speak, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, to the Republican Party, and I think some of you all might have been here then, but a few of you were. I know you were here, so you're hearing this stuff for the second time. But again, that's kind of, who I am in a nutshell. It's a quick version of it, but again, I can tell you that I want to introduce you to our Chief Financial Officer, Kathy Manning, to talk a little bit about the facts of this, and it's a new term for me, override. I didn't know what we were talking about when they were talking about that, but she's going to explain that to you a little bit, and then obviously I'll take any questions that you all have. So you'll probably be more prepared financial questions to answer those, but any questions you want to know about me, I'll be glad to answer, and if I don't know the answer, I'll certainly find out and get back to you. But thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. Yes, sir.
Is override one word or two words?
That's a good question. It's one word, okay. All right, so let me turn it over to Ms. Kathy Manning. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, and again, thank you for allowing us to join your meeting here tonight. The override that Payson Unified School District is seeking in November is actually a continuation of the current override that we have in place. So this is a 10% override that would result in retaining the current tax.
Result in what?
Retaining the current tax.
Yeah, it's not a new tax. It's one that's already in place.
Okay. Failure of the override would result in a loss of approximately $450,000 during next school year, 2020-21. And we would have to phase out the override over 3 years. So during the 3 years, it would be about $1.4 million. And the override actually supports maintaining the class sizes that are within the board-approved class size ranges. It supports providing advanced courses and dual enrollment opportunities to our high school students. We maintain technology, music, and physical education programs. And we attract and retain quality staff. So the impact of the override on your taxes. For the average homeowner with an assessed value of approximately $166,000, the tax impact is approximately $87 per year.
Kathy, one thing, this is what throws everybody off. Assessed value and true value are two different things. So if your home is worth $300,000, it has an assessed value of $166,000. So that gives you an idea whether your house is $270,000 or $400,000. The assessed value is what the tax is based on.
You should have worn your R tonight.
Yeah, all right. I got it up here.
Thank you, Roy. And again, this tax is a continuation of the secondary tax that the homeowner is currently paying, so it's not an additional tax. And do you have any questions? Okay, first hand.
Even though it's not an additional tax, is that $87 an additional amount?
No. The $87.
That's what it was last time, and it will remain the same.
Yes, good question. And did you have a question?
Yes, can you, I know you mentioned the bulleted items, but can you explain each of those items? What is the minimum class size with board approved class size range? What is that? And on each of those, and provide dual enrollment. How do you provide that dual enrollment?
Okay, good question. 100% of the override support is in the classroom. So it actually supports teaching positions. The class sizes, I don't have in front of me. If my memory serves me correctly, kindergarten is 20-1. I want to say first, and second are like 27, third 29.
Sounds right.
I'm going to have to get that information back to you, but it's a range depending on the grade level between 20 in kindergarten up to 30 in the high school.
Does not exceed 30?
per teacher.
Oh, there's some classes with more
Oh,
than
yeah.
30 in it.
It
The
happens.
ratio doesn't exceed 30. That doesn't mean there's not a particular classroom in the high school and middle school that has more than 30 students in there. And that would be because of choices that the students make. So some of the classes are lower class size, some are higher, but the average is 30.
And this year, like second grade, we got slammed with a bunch of students we weren't planning on. And this override allowed us to have the funding to hire an additional teacher to bring the class sizes back down.
Was the first time, and Ms. Manning, you correct me if I'm wrong, first time in a while we had an increase about 140 students than what we had anticipated.
Absolutely. We've been on a decline for 10 years.
And that's good news, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Brenda
That's
has a
very good news.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go over
Question
here
back
and then.
Gary.
For clarification, is, you said 100% in the classroom? That means you don't spend it on athletics or anything else, it's all in the classroom?
That is correct. It's 100% actually teacher salaries in the classroom.
Brenda, one question we didn't answer of hers was the dual enrollment. That's where the kids can go to the college and get college credits. And we have several kids that are getting their associate's degree before they even get out of high school.
Yeah, that's a good program.
Yeah, and then this money helps us provide that program.
And do you provide transportation,
No.
or just, what is it, what do you actually purchase with the funds? If you're talking about 450,000 that's going into the classroom,
Yes.
It's actually 1.37 million that's
million.
going into the classroom.
but you're talking about over 3, I'm talking about during the school year, it's 450,000.
No, during the school year, it's 1.37 million. If we had to phase it out, yes, every year. If we had to phase it out, the first year we phase out by 1/3, that's why the 470,000 is
I didn't
referenced.
hear you say 1/3. It says over 3 years.
See, I believe it's an 8-year program, right, or 7-year?
Years on that.
It's a 7-year override. If you don't reauthorize it in the 5th year, then you have to phase out over a 3-year period. So it's 1/3, then the second third additively, and then the last year you're 100% phased out. But we do receive approximately between 1.3 and 1.4 million every year.
Could you tell me what the operating budget is of the school system yearly?
Yes, our total budget this current year, including all funding sources, is about 18 million. Yes.
What's the reason for an override in the first place? I mean, why don't you just have it in the base?
Well, we're not funded in the base to be able to offer these programs. So basically, our base funding, if we didn't have the override in place, we would not be able to offer music, PE, some of these electives that are important to our community.
Band.
Right, band, chorus, all of
It's
it.
a funding mechanism that the state gave to school districts to go out for additional funds for programs that the community felt was important to their students. Correct.
Yes, that is exactly correct.
Could you just answer one question? Are all the funds coming from the town of Payson or the surrounding county and the state and the federal government? Where are the total number, where are the funds coming from? Are we responsible for specific programs that are initiated either by the state, the federal, or the county governments?
Are you referring to the M&O or the total budget?
No, I'm just talking about the budget. I'm just talking about, does that money come from the city of Payson to the school system? The entire $18 million?
Okay, the 18 million, it includes many funding sources. Our main funds are M&O, maintenance and operation, and capital, which is referred to as district additional assistance. Those funds are funded, they're called levy funds. So there's a levy against property tax for those funds. There is also the state general fund. There is state additional assistance. So there are formulas that support the M&O and capital funds. We have federal grants, we have state grants, And then we have some cash-controlled funds from renting our facilities to the community. Credit for Kids program is very well supported in this community. We have auxiliary funds, student-raised funds, sale of fixed assets when we sold Frontier School. There are many cash-controlled funds, so they come from various sources. But the majority is M&O and capital.
Is the M&O like 14 million, and so this is like 10% of the M&O?
Yes.
Not of the 18?
Correct. Thank you, Pete.
You mentioned the property taxes. Even though the schools are here in Payson, do they include, say, Star Valley, Pine, Strawberry?
Thank you, because that was another question. So the voters, the people that get to vote in the override are within the Payson School District, which does include Star Valley, Beaver Valley. It does not include Pine Strawberry as far as them having the opportunity to vote for or against the override. However, Pine Strawberry students that attend our district, their school district pays us tuition. And in that formula that we charge to their school district, we do include $750 per student for debt service. So they do help us pay back our debt that our community voted in place.
I asked you last week if any of you would bring your tax bill. Did anybody bring their tax bill? Nope. Well, I blew up mine. A tax bill looks like this, with the coupons down at the bottom for your half and half. Okay, so I have one of those average homes in Payson. They say my house is worth about $325,000.
That's average, huh?
Well,
It's pretty
it's
close to average.
pretty
For
close to
market value,
average.
not assessed value.
That's the market value.
That's pretty close to
Okay.
average market value.
So on your tax bill, right up here, which is where it says assessments, I have $183.51 assessed valuation, not market. $183,917. Jeez Louise, I gotta put my glasses on. All righty.
They're just above the average.
So Kathy, yeah, just above the average. So I sat down with Mrs. Manning, Kathy, and we went over my tax bill of all the school stuff, okay? So the tax rate is, here it is, we're just coming up. It's 0.50, that's 50 cents, 63, 5063, so it's a little over 50 cents. That is down from last year, which was 51.36. So the tax rate is actually down a little bit, okay?
Is this for schools?
This is for the override that we're talking about. She talked about the tax levy. So the tax levy on mine is like, you have Gila County is collecting money, you have school equalization funds, you have Town of Payson taxes, you have Payson Unified District number 10, maintenance and operations. And if this is your primary residence here in Payson or Star Valley or wherever within the district, mine is $712.15, but because it's our primary residence here, you get a tax credit back of $338.06. So I'm really only paying $376. Now that is the money that everybody gets taxed that goes down to the state of Arizona.
County treasurer.
To the county treasurer.
When you pay your property tax.
When you pay your property tax, yeah. And then it goes.
They pass it on to us. That's your,
Oh,
that's
okay.
assessed against your property value as a primary tax rate.
That's your primary tax rate.
And then the override is a secondary tax rate.
Yeah, so anyhow, it goes to the treasurer and then comes to the school. And then we get equalization funds because people down in Paradise Valley, Scottsdale area,
have a lot higher valuation, they have more money than they need. And then the districts that are really, really poor can't give enough taxes for what they do need, so the state kind of balances everything out, and then we get, right, and then we get some extra money from the state as equalization funds.
Yes, that is.
This is very simplified, by the way.
Summary of what occurs, but what happens is there's something that the legislature sets that's called the qualifying tax rate, and that gets set higher or lower every year based on assessed valuation averages in the state. If assessed values go up, the qualifying tax rate goes down. If assessed values go down, the QTR goes up. And the point of that is so that taxpayers pay a similar amount every year. So what happens is first we take the total budget based on a formula and apply the qualifying tax rate to that budget based on our assessed value in Payson. And then the difference of our budget is supported by state equalization. So an example like Shirley was using is Cave Creek School District. They have a very, very high assessed valuation. So when you multiply that by the qualifying tax rate, they produce a lot more money than Cave Creek School District's budget calls for. So the excess goes into the state equalization fund for the districts that need it. So it's formula driven.
Yeah, so, but then looking down, we still have, remember there was bonding about how many years ago?
2007 it was approved.
Okay, so the bond is listed here, but that's about to be paid off, right?
It'll be paid off in 2027, 28.
Okay, so we got a few more years on that. So that's the second to the last item on my tax bill. The last item is the override. It says OVRD, it stands for Override, Payson Unified School District. So based on my $183,317 assessed valuation, my rate last year was $94.26, which was only $8 more than the year prior. So
What was the bond payment?
my bond payment?
Right.
You mean
You said there was paying off the bond was a...
Oh, paying off the bond on my tax bill this last year was $219.
Really?
Yeah.
And what was that bond money used for?
Huh?
That
was building Frontier.
We built JRE, Julia Randall Elementary, and then we did some improvements at the high school and middle school.
Correct. And we built the ag building, we built Julia Randall, we went through all the high school and put all new air conditioners in. Same at, we did some work down there, but I don't recall what all we did. I think we had some roof issues. What we end up doing is catching up. We're always behind in maintenance. I've never seen the likes. A lot of our bond goes to catching up on maintenance issues, which you just saw in the paper. We've got $10 million worth of deferred maintenance in the district right now.
Can I ask another question that I've had, which is, so when you got the bond issue last time, you said these are the uses we're putting it to.
Yes.
If it fails,
Are you talking two things here?
No, I'm saying, let's say you said this is what the bond is going for. Let's say it fails.
Are you talking the override fails?
Override.
Two different,
Right. Okay, that's what I'm doing.
totally different.
Not talking about the
Yeah.
bond. For the override. So let's say it fails. Are you legally obligated to cut the stuff that you say the bond was paying for, or could you make cuts in some other area?
Okay, not what the bond was paying for,
I'm
but the
sorry, I keep
override.
saying bond, I mean
So, yes, in the fact sheet, we've talked about what the override is supporting, and that was in the pamphlet that was approved previously in 2014. And the continuation of that override is supporting the exact same things. Are we legally obligated to cut those exact programs if the override doesn't pass? no, but we probably will be looking at those exact programs, because whether it's legal obligation or what we promised the voters, those are the programs we're going to look at.
Could you,
So-
could you clarify just again the difference between bond and override? From what I'm hearing you say, the
Capital
bond
projects,
is for
override is-
facilities maintenance. The override affects the classroom, correct? Is that right?
Yes, and, you know, the facilities that were built with the bond definitely affected the classrooms. It built the classrooms.
Right.
But we spent that money we issued the bonds in 2007 and 8, and we built those facilities prior to my arrival in 2011. So it was built between 2008 and 2010. That money was spent by 2010, and now we've just been paying those bonds off. At one point, we refinanced to save the taxpayers' money. It was to our benefit. So we refinanced the debt obligation. And so we will finish paying off the money that was used for those buildings through the bond issuance in 2027-28. The override is for maintenance and operation. So our override is used 100% for teacher salaries in the classroom for these additional programs.
And you all, if you were here in 2007-8, you had to vote on that bond issue, just like you get to vote on this override. So you all voted to pass the bond to pay for Julia Randall's rebuild and all that.
Right. And this override was originally passed in 2010 and then renewed in 2014. And so this is the second renewal. Yes.
A bond is normally issued for a specific
Capital
improvement.
project.
Yes.
A real estate improvement, okay.
And some
Yes.
maintenance usually.
There was a
Okay, can
gentleman.
we have Mark back there with his hand up in the green?
I've heard a lot of questions here so far tonight, but none regarding the most important question, and that's regarding the quality of our kids' education. You want to vote for an override, but I'd like to know, why should we pay any more if our kids aren't learning anything, i.e., President Obama, one of the most disastrous programs he pushed on the schools. And I'm sorry, I don't know the name of that program or policy.
Race to the top, or No Child Left Behind?
No child left behind.
That was
Bush.
behind, and you know
Yeah,
what, that was a
right.
dumbing down of our
Yeah.
educational system, of our classrooms, of our math, reading, arithmetic. I go to stores and I get charged maybe $10.02. So I give someone $20.02. They got to go to a calculator, for crying out loud,
They do.
to give me a change. They don't know how to give change, restaurants, department stores. So I'm saying, and I'm trying to keep an open mind on this, but why should we give more money if our kids aren't learning anything? And to what extent has No Child Been Left Behind brought up here in Payson?
Okay, let me address.
Common Core, hold on, Common Core, whatever. Do we have transgender bathrooms? Are we teaching our kids sex educations when it should be the parents teaching them? I mean, this is happening now.
Okay, that's a lot of questions, so let me try to remember all of them.
Let me answer one. First off, there's a lot of things parents should be teaching that they're not teaching anymore.
That's right.
You know why?
The kids
You know
aren't
why?
changing,
Because
parents
both of them
are.
are working.
Well,
You know
that
why? Because
possibly,
taxes are too high.
possibly
That's why.
they're not working because of
But that's a
taxes.
cop-out. That's a cop-out.
No.
Let's centralize
I have a
on
kindergarten
this.
teacher living with me right now. Kids don't know how to tie their shoes, they don't know where they live, they don't know their parents' address, they don't know anything. And the teachers are being asked to raise these kids. Back when we were in school, we had two-parent families. Now we have
That's right.
single moms, single dads, trying
You
to
know what
raise these
that is? A
kids.
breakdown of what they took out of the schools in the 60s, the Bible, Jesus Christ.
Well,
You know
that
what?
could-
We're not gonna get anywhere if we keep on throwing money at something where it's not where it's not helping the kids or their learning.
But I've heard this
I
argument a
understand
lot
that.
about
I
money.
understand that, Roy.
Money
I
helps.
understand that.
I'm
Money
from-
helps.
I'm from Wyoming, and Wyoming is 10th in the nation in funding. Let me tell you, money helps. We have here one counselor for 750 kids. In Wyoming, that big a school would have had 4 counselors because we had the money. Our buses, they were new, they ran. We didn't have these jalopies we have here because we can't afford anything. Money is extremely important to education. Anybody that says, quit throwing money at that's not the answer, these people do more with less than any group of people I've ever seen. If it was a business, schools would be shut down.
I don't see that in the real world, Roy. Since the 60s, again, when we took the Bible and Jesus Christ out of the schools, it's been going downhill. Pregnancies, murders, rapes, sexual assaults are all going up.
We can argue about this all night.
Let me go ahead and address some of your questions. Since you asked them, I would like to address them, and then we'll go to the next. First of all, anything that is agreed upon or invoked at a federal level would be related to federal grants. That's not what we're asking for. This is an M&O override continuation. So when you said ask for more, we're not asking for more, we're asking for a continuation of the same. As far as our school system, I believe we have a quality school system in Payson, and I'm proud of that. I was looking at some statistics today in preparation for this meeting, and 7 out of 9 grades tested in language arts exceed the state average. So I'm proud of that.
What's language arts?
English.
Okay.
Fancy
Well,
word.
English reading, it's a
Yeah,
combination.
it's a combination of
Okay.
3 or 4 things.
So, you know, money doesn't solve all problems, but money supports these exact programs. So if we want our students to have the opportunity to be exposed to technology programs, music programs, physical education, this is what it takes for us to continue those programs.
Okay. Donna's next in the back.
I'd like to point out 2 things. First thing is that the money is, keeping the money away from you is not going to bring the Bible back to the school.
Right.
And the first thing. The second thing is that we can't blame you people for taking the Bible out of the class. You can blame the National Education Association at the federal level and the communists that are chipping away at our country for that. You can't blame these people.
I'm not blaming them, sir. I'm just saying, where's our money going to? Is it going to Common Core, these programs, Common Core? Is Common Core in our schools today? You didn't answer that question. We're dumbing them down, aren't we? So you want more money to push this Common Core agenda?
Actually, Arizona is not Common Core. Arizona has their own standards that were developed, and we follow the standards that the state has adopted.
I'd like to say something. So as long as I'm superintendent here, they won't be transgender restrooms, I can promise you that.
Answer one question. Thank you.
Yes, and I can tell you this right here, this is what we need to be talking about in our schools. This right here. So I can tell you the values that this Tea Party stands for is exactly the same values that I stand for. And I can tell you that without any hesitation and tell you that proudly. So I just want to address that.
Can I say something about Common Core?
Yes, ma'am.
So I was a classroom teacher in this district for 27 years out of 29. So I know all about Common Core and the standards. Arizona doesn't adapted Common Core standards, but the Common Core standards and Arizona's standards did not dumb down. They actually increased the rigor of curriculum. The grade level standards became much more difficult than they were 20, 30 years ago. So what used to be a first grade curriculum is now a kindergarten curriculum and all the way on up. And I'd be happy to visit with you about that. And let you know specifically what happened. There is absolutely no dumbing down I can guarantee it. And if you think the kids aren't learning in this district, please visit the schools. Please look in the classrooms.
And the schools
and
that have
see what
Common
those
Core,
kids
they
are
are
doing.
dumbed down. They're not even learning English. They're
Common
being
Core
taught
is not
sense-
dumbing down.
Okay, well that's, okay, well that's good to know. That was
Yeah,
the
so
question I had
I'd
concern
love to
about.
visit with you some more about that.
Okay. All right, we have Wes.
So everything in the override that is funded is based on elective education, correct?
As far as these programs are not
Right.
required by law.
They're elective, correct?
They are electives.
Okay. How much of the budget for the state of Arizona goes towards education?
I really can't answer that off the top of my head.
It's over 50% of the general fund.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely over
It's
50%.
what, Brenda?
It's well over 50% of the entire state budget.
It's like
Okay.
50%.
For K-12 education, yes.
There's our future.
She said education.
Okay, but it includes university.
Can these be included in the requirements through state law?
I'm sorry, what?
Can these programs be included in state law for education and be funded through the state directly, and then the override would be a moot point?
Can they? It would take a legislative
Action.
to require these programs.
And that's
They're
not
not currently required.
Okay, so that's what it would take to eliminate any need for an override.
Yes, it would take more funding on a state level to reduce the burden on the taxpayers, yes.
That's what needs to be done.
Okay, Jeff?
Yeah, I would just like to ask this question, okay? All of us are familiar with our educations, which happened about 50 years ago or so. And because of that, there was the same kind of issues that were coming up at that time about how to best be able to go ahead and fund schools. And I understand that there were a lot of different people having children. And of course, the tempo of the time was a lot different. There was a lot more growth that was going on. However, we still had to make these challenges to be able to go ahead and introduce some of these special programs into our school systems. So at the time, there was a lot of community outreach that I do remember, going out to the community, involving the business community in a number of these different type of special classes at the time where I went to school. And the idea was to go ahead and involve the community in more of a project. Now, my question would be, if we're only able to go ahead and fund specific classes through state assessments, through state collected funds, am I right?
Levies?
Okay, levies. If we're only able to go ahead and do that, then are you saying that that money for the additional programs would have to come from this particular
No, I'm not saying that the money from the state general fund and the formula can't fund these programs. I'm saying we don't receive enough to fund these programs with the general fund, so we're required to ask the community to approve an override to be able to continue to support it.
So in the case that the funds would not be available, then the people in the community would have to be approached to offer things of a specific nature. In other words, perhaps finance a trip to Phoenix for for a seminar in music or something like that. Am I correct?
Actually, we already do reach out to the community to finance field trips and things of that nature through tax credits, which is credit for kids. So the community does help with extracurricular activities.
So there is more of a composite involvement than what is initially thought of as just one specific issue in regards to the tax override. In other words, the entire community is funding the school system through a variety of different vehicles, not just the tax overrides. It's paying for some things. And I guess really what we're trying to figure out is why would that, if that tax ride was not, the override wasn't necessary when we were kids, why is it necessary now?
Okay, I don't know what budget was in place 50 years ago, the formula, so I can't really answer that truthfully about what's changed. I can talk about the present. I have been working for Arizona school districts in finance for 30 years. So we've had overrides in place since I began 30 years ago. What happened prior to that, or how the programs were funded, I don't know.
That's fine. Thank you.
I would like to share more on Mark's question. A lot of these kids, if they were going to go to school and they only had English, math, science, and a little bit of history, and they had homework, and it would be a drag. But kids come to school because they get to do sports, they get to do drama, they get to do art, they get to do music, the choral, they get to go compete against each other. And, we had, when Rory and I were on, we had a great difficulty even paying the coaches. The coaches were having to raise money to support themselves when we were on the board. And so now, right as I was leaving, which is I left in May of 2017, we're finally getting enough money, with the override, with the money we were getting to the state, to actually give the coaches a stipend. So they didn't have to be out there raising money from the kids' parents. Kids already have to pay $200 a year to play football or baseball or whatever else.
Let me just say that wasn't supported by the override. We were in a position to be able to transfer the coaching stipends from forced fees to M&O so that they didn't have to raise the money anymore. But that does not come from the override.
Okay.
Mr. Ferris had a question, I think.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. The tail's wagging the dog in our school systems. Just before an election, they bring all your nice folks out and say all these nice things, and then we fall right back into it. For 2 years, I've studied and filmed the school bus program, which was run by the husband of the financier of the city of Payson. And
It was run by my husband for a couple of years.
I don't know which husband it was, it might be yours.
Yeah, it was mine.
If so, bless you, but he didn't belong there in my opinion. Now, we had drunken bus drivers for 2 years that I knew of, and the kids all knew it for 30 days. And I had a meeting with Tim Humphrey a week before that accident, talking about the drunk school bus drivers running stop signs. Over there on Bridle Path, I can take you where there's 5 school buses in 1 hour go down the same road. There's no coordination, there's nothing here to make this thing work right, except now everybody cleans it up, painting it like it's a big plus that we need this money. And it falls right back into the same thing. The security of the school is ridiculous. The drug and alcohol test of bus drivers, they didn't have. One of your school board members was over passing out handbills to get rid of the city council that she also served on. The whole thing's a big mess, and money's not going to solve it.
Okay, I'm not going to address the issues that aren't related to the override. I'll just leave it at that. But I do think we have a good system, and I can tell you the override is not supporting transportation or security.
Okay. Carrie.
I had the distinct privilege today of enjoying the efforts of your culinary class from the high schoolers. They're teaching these children not only to cook, they serve, they plan, they budget. When they get out of this class, I was under the impression that were virtually employment ready. And boy, is their food good. And they're really good. Yeah, this is the 3rd or 4th meal I've had with them, and actually on Sunday, they're doing our reception at our church.
That's nice to hear.
They're incredibly good. So if that's the kind of programs your override is doing, That's the kind of programs that we need for our kids. They're
Kathy,
employment ready.
The guy in the straw hat.
Jim?
Yeah, I think a big problem here too. I grew up in a small town in Illinois, and I mean, we had thousands of acres of farm ground that people were paying real estate taxes on that funded the school. You know, the payment in lieu of by the, the federal government for all the forest land that we have, Indian reservation on, they're not paying. They're not paying for our school, and I think that's a huge problem. And I just think it would be nice to change that arrangement, either with the federal government or whatever, that land that they're going to hold is going to help support our schools some more than what the payment in lieu of does today. But two, I'll go back to with other problems in there. To me, it's the homes, it's the parents. The kids go in there, and then the school takes them. Though what I blame the school for is worrying more about their self-esteem than their self-control, their feelings as opposed to their behavior. And I think we need to get around that and just tell them, get over these destructive feelings. And it would be nice if our public school system, when you have kids that are hostile to the educational process, you can get them out of this classroom. And people will go, well, what are you going to do with them? It might be, I don't care what you do with them, just get them out of the classroom so those that are there, ready, willing, and able to receive an education can do that.
Okay, I'm going to address the PILT comment that you had, and then I'll let Dr. Rentz address the discipline issues because he is supporting our staff in that area. I actually just got an update today from the NACO, which is National Association of Counties. The PILT money and the Secure Rural Schools, which is what affects us, we refer to that as forest fees. And the federal government, there was a huge increase. There was 100 county representatives that flew into Washington, D.C. last week and met with legislators asking them to reauthorize PILT and Secure Rural Schools. They're looking for a 10-year reauthorization. So for our school district, Secure Rural Schools generates about $250,000 to $350,000 a year. And this is the first year we're without that. So it definitely helps with what our school district can offer. And then I'll let Dr. Rentz talk about the discipline.
Joe, I appreciate your comments. I just want to say I heard just last week that there's several districts in California that have made it illegal to suspend a kid from school. And if that ever comes to this state, we're in trouble, folks. I can promise you. I have very high expectations for our kids. We want to have great relationships with the kids. You hear about a program called Capturing Kids' Hearts, where we have, expectations. But along with those relationships, we do have expectations for our kids to behave properly and to learn and to understand that we're not going to let them get in the way of, like you were saying, somebody else that wants to be in that school and get an education. So it is, and you're exactly right. It's in the home is where the problem is. And I hear people talk all the time about students have changed. It's parents that have changed and the way they're raising their children. And so, we got 8 hours a day, and we're going to do the very best we can to try to overcome some of the things that our kids are going home to. So I appreciate your question, and I understand your concern. Any other questions y'all want to ask of me, or? Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to work with Sylvia Allen concerning that sex education book. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with it, no ma'am.
Well, anyway, it's a porno book is what it is. And I guess it's put out by Planned Parenthood partly, and it's in our school systems, or it's supposed to go into them. And if you had that in your car and you got stopped by a policeman and he saw a book like that in your car, you'd be arrested for child.
Are you saying that's in our school system?
I'm saying, I'm asking you, is it?
Not to my knowledge. No, ma'am, it's not.
Do we have a sex education class here in Payson schools? We do. And I was on the board when we authorized it, and one of the things I made very, very sure of was that it was not Planned Parent curriculum. It was about 2015, 2016, we had a presentation by a gal, remember she came?
She came through the Payson school system.
Yeah, and she I don't know whether she helped develop, she found it, and we authorized it. And we saw all about it and stuff. And it's nothing like the Planned Parent one that's being promoted.
No.
However, Kathy Hoffman down at the state board is trying to get this particular green book that we have seen here at this Tea Party meeting in the school district.
Right, but it's not
And there's
currently.
a couple of districts that already have it.
Not
and
us.
it's from second grade on up, and it's
She's the state school
well, I'll tell you,
superintendent,
if you
right?
pull the cover off that book and it's found by a police officer or anybody in anybody's home or in your automobile or anywhere, you're going to go to jail, definitely.
I appreciate you sharing that with me. I was not aware of that. To my knowledge, that's not in our school system.
Well, have a talk with Sylvia.
It's not.
It was bad.
I sure will. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay.
I just wanted to make one comment, actually. I don't know what's going on with the bus drivers here. I know they're underpaid, they need more money. There's no question of that. I was a school bus driver for Mesa Public Schools for 6 years before I retired. And everything that I'm hearing from Glenn Ross, which I appreciate what he's saying, was not only absolutely prohibited by the school down there, but by state law. And they monitored that, and the other bus drivers monitored each other. So
Yes, sir.
I'm finding it very difficult to believe that it's quite as bad as it's being made out to be. But the lack of money, I think, is a major issue.
Just so everybody knows, too, we do have random drug testing for our bus drivers.
Well, maybe it shouldn't be random.
Well, I mean, what I mean by that is they don't know when it's going to happen, so it's not like they can, do what they're going to do for a few months and then stop. It's any time they come in, they're subject to a
It's
drug
also a
test.
condition of employment and it's annual.
Yeah.
That's a
In
drug.
addition to random.
It's a drug.
So, Ms. Manning was just telling me, in addition to the random throughout the year, there's an annual drug test that's also given. So, yes, ma'am.
How many bus drivers does Payson District have?
I don't know that I can. Do you know that figure right
We
now?
have 30, approximately,
I can tell you that we're having a salary study done also to
including
try
subs.
to
Yeah.
to a salary study to help us understand, what, and I want to find out, with the loss of bus drivers, what is it? Is it salary? Is it them not feeling like they're supported by our administration? So it's not a Payson issue. It's a nationwide issue, shortage of bus drivers. So we're looking at it. We're very concerned about it, trying to do everything we can to recruit drivers.
It's those of you who are transported.
I'm sorry?
It's the ones that are being transported. They're
The
coming,
kids.
it's mostly the
Ye-
green.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
drivers.
Yes, ma'am. And that's something that I want our bus drivers to feel like they're absolutely supported of.
Yeah, because those kids, some of them are pretty vicious.
And riding a school bus is a privilege. It's not a right, and we recognize that. Yes, sir.
Annual budgeting for the district, is it based on prior budget, or do you go to a zero budget assessment?
I'm going to defer that to Ms. Manning.
I'm not sure if you're referring to the budget limit, but there's a formula that,
No, the overall budget for the district.
okay, we reprioritize annually. In the spring, we project what the change in our budget's going to be the next year. We know whether we expect an increase or a decrease. And then we look at everything we're doing and we reprioritize annually. And then we present to our governing board the superintendent's recommended balanced budget.
So you could be building on what exists.
We could be building on what exists, or we could be removing what exists.
Okay, Mark, back there again.
Okay, I'm not sure if you know, but at what age do our kids start learning this sex education class?
First grade.
I'm sorry, I don't know that.
Surely.
I'm not on the
It's
curriculum
existing.
end, so I don't know
I
that.
believe they have a class in PE in 6th grade, do they not?
I can't answer that, I
Yeah,
don't know.
as I
I can tell you
recall.
the override doesn't support it.
Is that really necessary? Teaching kids at that age with their hormones going in every direction?
Well,
I mean,
Yeah,
here we go again. The
Yes.
school's getting into the parents of fear.
well, don't you know you can Google anything these days?
Well, again, that
And they're
belongs
better-
to the parents to take
I
care
know,
of that.
yeah. So, Don?
My daughter's very active in her school about the sex education issues. And frankly, the good sex education classes do start at about the 1st grade. But they're not about sex, they're about gender. They're about boundaries, they're about treating each other according to
How many genders
the
are there?
proper way of treating each other, things of that nature. It's not technically sex education, probably until you get into the 5th or 6th grade.
Well, every single one of us,
Social
when we went to
etiquette.
school, we never had a sex
I
education
did.
class, and we all turned out fine.
I did.
I had one.
I do.
I had-
6th grade or 5th grade. 5th grade for girls.
I'd like to reflect a
Talking
little.
about
I'd like to ask-
Okay,
Been
Jeff,
waiting.
I'd
Jeff's
just like
up.
to ask Mr. Huff,
Yes.
Mr. Huff, let's redirect some of the questions over here to you, okay? So am I to understand that you are supporting the override for the city?
Absolutely. It's for the school district,
And
yes.
the basis for that is your experience?
Actually, I raised both my kids here. They both were very successful in this school district. The school district raised my kids, and they went on to very successful careers. My son's a teacher here, and his wife is a teacher here. My daughter's a nurse anesthetist in the Valley. All of their friends, I've watched them go on and be successful. You can't imagine how many doctors and nurses, lawyers that we have based out of this school district. It's unbelievable. We've had Flynn scholars. There's school districts in the nation that's never had Flynn scholars. What's the big program at ASU for the really, we've got probably,
Parents Honors College.
yeah, we've got several kids in the Honor Scholar program at ASU. It's unheard of what we produce here.
Would you just mind explaining to me, because I'm new to the community, okay?
Sure.
I understand there's a large grant of land that was given for a university extension, and in order to be able to go ahead and do that, were you involved, or can you give any kind of explanation as to why that never materialized, or?
Well, we didn't have a willing partner. I mean, it's not just for a university, it's for educational purposes. We could put a high school there, or it's for education. A certain percentage of it has to be used for education. ASU was being touted as a willing partner, but it did not come to fruition. They weren't a willing partner.
So,
If you could address that, I mean, if you could act on that, who would you go to? How would you find a way to be able to increase the educational value of this particular community by approaching a college or a university to be able to make its home here? Or would you even do that?
Well, this is my personal opinion, so don't take it for a lot, but we have a college, Gila Community. I would get that from Eastern, turn that into a small four-year college. And we're a rural school. We need the technical world. We need trades like welding, diesel mechanics, carpentry. Rural kids, only 30-some% go to college, and only about 10 to 15% graduate. We need technical schools. I mean, I'm from Wyoming. We have that Wyoming Tech where you learn to be a diesel mechanic or many things like that. I personally would like to see us concentrate and get Gila County Community College away from Eastern, get our own little four-year college. It wouldn't have to be big. We've got plenty of room to build some dorms, additional buildings. That's where I would start. I don't think we need a mega university up here. I don't think our community could support it with our infrastructure.
Can you address how the property values are affected by the school system?
Well, yeah, one thing as a realtor I see is I have doctors I take out all the time that are coming to town. They want to be introduced to town. Other professionals. You have to have good schools if you're going to get the professional people to town. They're going to come, they're going to ask, well, how is this program? How is that program? That's why I fought, I don't remember Shirley, on the bond really hard for that administration building down by the lakes. I used to have to take prospective doctors and administrators telling him to a double-wide trailer up there by the dome. That was our admin building. We have to have good schools create good towns. We're building for our future right here. We all would like to go back to where there's a one-room schoolhouse where we all walked uphill both ways to school and back. It's not
10 feet of snow.
10 feet of snow. It's not going to happen. And these kids are learning more by 6th grade, 7th grade than we did in 12 years of school, I'm telling you. Their curriculum that they have is unbelievable. Science, the math, the English, it's unreal. And I just can't say enough about our school district. By raising my family here, looking at my friends, looking at Sylvia and her family and her friends, her kids as friends, they come back. We're doing something right because a large percentage of our kids want to come back to this town. Payson as a community is doing something right. These kids want to come back. Look at the teachers. I look at that class of 2008 that won state championship. Probably, I'd say 80% of that team is back in Payson. They like the town. We're doing something right. And I just hope we continue it. I hope you can see free to, I know none of us like to pay taxes. Man, I tell you, I'm the same as you guys. Every year I go, oh my God, I didn't think I'd make this much money, let alone pay it in taxes. But it's a necessary evil. And I guarantee you, the school district is not wasting a dime. It is not. That is the most terrible thing is that budget, what you have to do. I mean, you want to do so much. And as a school board member, I know when Shirley came on, you think you're going to change the world. By God, we're going to change this district. You get in there and all of a sudden you realize the facts of life and you realize they're doing everything they can with what they have. And
shoestring budget.
Yeah, shoestring budget. I remember there was a couple members from your, I don't know if they're still members here, I don't see them, but they were bound and determined we were wasting money. So we had Kathy come in on a Saturday and compile the whole budget, and we gave it to them.
We did that several times.
Yeah, and they went through it. They came back and said, no, we can't find nothing wrong, and it's just like I said, if it's a business, it gets shut down. It's so underfunded. So they're doing a great job, and I just hope that you can see yourself clear to vote for this, and people you see to vote for it. It's not going to increase your tax rate, it's just keeping it the same.
There's something else I want to share. One of our members asked me to find somebody that would speak against the override to be fair and balanced. And at the time I said, well, I don't know anybody. Do you have a suggestion of who, she said, well, I'm against it. But anyhow, so she sent me this email. And Kathy, I brought it to you, but you weren't there. So I sat down with Brenda. It says, dear citizens, dear Payson citizens, and then it refers to the body. There were 9 points. And it says, PUSD, Payson Unified School District is what you would assume. But it said that we added $21 million to our budget last year. And we built a $2 million art center. And there were 2 sentences that Brenda thought were actually truthful statements, but they had nothing to do with the override. So out of 9 points, 7 of them were totally false. And for some reason, it is clipped to something else on my table, and I couldn't find it to bring it today. But anyhow, oh, Kathy's got it. All right, so here it is. It's an email. We think it's Peoria Unified School District,
We know
which
it
is
is. We know it.
we know it is Peoria Unified School District. This is going around Payson as a reason why you should not vote on this override, and it's being emailed around and probably put on Facebook. Please don't believe it. All these notes in the lines are all my notes that, that are all the inaccuracies. So please beware of that. And is there anything else that anybody would like to speak on? All right. Okay. Oh, Jim.
Yeah, another thing that I think that the schools
Speak up, so.
that the schools get involved with, that it costs a lot of money. And it goes back, I think, I don't know how many years, but the inclusion program. So, you know, a lot of the kids, and my heart goes out to them. I had two brothers that had some substantial learning disabilities. But when they are all put in a school, and now you have to have almost individual aides with each one, and, you know, there's a lot of costs to that. And I remember, you know, my two brother-in-laws I mean, they went to a school that was for kids with learning disabilities. And they, you know, one teacher could take a handful of those kids and they could work with them on the life skills that they were going to need later on in life. They're not sitting in a 7th grade class learning what the agricultural exports of Central America were. They're not going to learn it. It doesn't mean anything to them. So it seems like we've gone through, but we had parents get, well, my kid deserves to be in that class just as much as anybody else. Well, yeah, but they're not getting the education and the experience that they need. This school that my brother-in-laws went to, they were the basketball team. The girls were the cheerleaders. They were the king and queen of their court. And my wife at that time went back, and because one of them goes, how come we can't have a class reunion? And they did. They put it together in that old school that they all used to go to, and a lot of the old teachers come back. I don't think I've ever been to a more emotional setting than that was. Nobody can tell me these kids are having that same kind of experience, being, you know, pushed into the school system, going through the school system the way they are now. These kids were much better off the other way, and it was much less costly to the public school system.
As a traditional public school district, we are required to follow federal laws regarding special needs students. So the law dictates that we educate the student in the least restrictive environment possible for them to succeed. So we have both resource classrooms and self-contained. So resource is where we push the kids into the classroom if it's deemed that that's the best setting for them, but we also have self-contained because some students are not prepared for that.
Okay, Glenn.
What about getting a committee of 3 people and letting them have a field day with one of your guidance to go through the school, go through the bus garage, talk to the kids, see what's going on over there. You're going to be surprised. It's not all rosy and white. There's people doing personal business on a computer, and there's a lot more going on than what you know up there in your office.
Okay.
It's not
money. You know, I know my function here is to take notes and shut up, but I can't.
No, you can
I
be
just want to. I was lucky enough to have raised my 3 kids, and then to have been able to be remarried to a woman who has 2 kids who went through the Payson schools. And, you know, one is in the Barrett Honors College, working on an astrophysics degree at ASU. The other is about to start her master's degree in geology at University of Alaska Fairbanks. You know, covering them for, I mean, I've been in these schools the whole 9 years I was here. I've seen the most wonderful music programs, the most wonderful plays, the most wonderful kids, and, you know, it just isn't true. The kids, if you spent time in those schools, if you knew these kids and their friends, you'd give you hope, because it's not as bad as you think. These are great kids, and these teachers love them. And but it's hard to know when you're not in that daily contact with the schools and in those classrooms and seeing them. You get all this buzz and all this stuff because it's different. Well, yeah, it's different, but these kids, these are great kids. They really deserve us to equip them to pay our Social Security.
I ask, if you really want to see what our school's doing, go to a Friday night football game. Homecoming was this past week. you'd have seen what we're doing with our money, what our kids are like. You've seen the cheerleaders, the band, the football players, the fans, the kids in the stands. We have good people. We have a good town. And that school is the most important part of our town. If you don't have a school, you don't have a town.
Okay, Wes, last quick, oh, well, Wes and Phyllis, that's it. Okay, Wes, quick.
I'll just go and talk about the students. We have 2 events here every single year. They're called rodeo.
Yeah.
And we have asked for volunteers to help us for trash pickup and everything. In the past, we've had the FFA and the Ag group involved. We've also had the cheerleaders, the soccer team, the football team. These kids, when they come in, they get the job done. And we're proud of them, even with their horseplay. So.
Yeah. Phyllis?
Mine is just, either maybe you or this gentleman can answer. All of these exceptional children, and it sounds like there are many, are these the ones where the parents are involved?
I'd say 90% of the time, yes.
That's the answer.
Yes, absolutely.
Can I just add one
Yeah.
comment to that?
Some of these scholarships for these children to move on are also a result of these advanced placement classes that they were able to partake in. That does help their grade point average, and the override is supporting advanced placement classes.
I just want to say one thing. Pete, I appreciate what you said. I had the privilege to be at the high school on 9/11, and we had a ceremony there to recognize our law enforcement, our military, and our firefighters. And they had the color guard there doing the flag folding. And I was so impressed, and so, I've told this story several times. There's 700 high school kids sitting in an auditorium, and you could have heard a pin drop when they did that flag folding. And that says a lot about our kids and the kind of kids that, we're not perfect, of course we're not. And we're going to try to get better every single day. You know, that's the thing is we've got challenges, but we've got great kids. And I think I speak for, I don't want to throw a percentage out, because what they say, 90% of statistics are a lie anyway. But the reality is that most of our people in this district who work, it's a calling. It's not a job, it's a calling. And they take that very seriously. And we're blessed to live in the community that we do and to have the dedicated professionals that we do to take care of our kids. And yes, we've got challenges, but we're getting better every day. And I want to thank you again for your time to be able to come talk to you.
So I thank you very, very much for coming. Hope you all have developed thick skin over the years. So anyhow, so